Hello, thanks for joining us today on Envision. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor, and Dr. Brian Maher is our Superintendent. We have been talking in the district now for a couple of months about the possibility of opting out of the property tax freeze to raise additional money for our operating expenses in the district. Talk a little bit about how we got to this point, why it's necessary.
Well, as we've talked, in this segment before about our budgeting process doesn't really have a beginning and an end. It's just kind of ongoing, and you look at different pieces of that budget throughout the cycle. As we were looking through one of those pieces this year, it was the reserve fund. How much money do we have in reserve? And years ago, our district put together a finance action network. And the Finance Action Network said, hey, we have too much money in reserve. Let's spend that down. And over the last several years, the district has been spending down that amount with the goal in mind of hitting 8.5%. We're allowed considerably more than that from a statewide perspective, but we keep that at 8.5%. Well, what's going to happen in the district over the next couple of years is we're actually going to spend well down below that. With our current spending pattern, which we believe is a conservative spending pattern and a spending pattern that would constitute us as good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We're very cognizant of where that money comes from. So as we look at spending down that reserve, it doesn't take you very long to get down below that before you're at dangerous levels. And we see over the next few years will be at dangerous levels. So we want that reserve to stay at that 8.5% level. We don't want a lot of money in reserve. We don't want to build a savings account on the backs of taxpayers. That's certainly not what we're after. But we want to make sure that we have a good amount of money in the bank that would consider us to be business-wise from a perspective of handling a multi-million-dollar business, but also to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We believe that 8.5% mark is what we need to look at.
Right, and so the opt-out amount is for $5 million. Essentially, there's a school tax levy, and the plan was for that levy to decrease by 30 cents in the next year. And so a $5 million opt-out would basically keep it at the same level, and that 30 cents reduction, so it wouldn't be an increase per se over what it currently is, but it would just not be realizing that decrease.
Right. We want to be very clear on that too, and that's a great point. While we can say, hey, this isn't a property tax increase, it's also not a property tax decrease, and it could be. The patrons of our district could see a reduction in property tax, in their property taxes, if we didn't have the opt-out amount. But with the opt-out amount, they also won't see an increase from their current levels. So I think any time you mess with taxes, you've got to be very clear on what it does and what it doesn't do. Well, one of the things this does is it keeps your property taxes at the current level. What it doesn't do is it doesn't reduce them, as could happen if we didn't opt out. And is this a wise time to do that or not? We think it is. We've had a Finance Action Network group that we brought in to say, help us look at this, and does this make sense? And these are folks from throughout the community who work in the financial industry, and they said, yes, we do believe this is a prudent way to approach this. And so we took that advice, and ultimately our Board of Education said, we think this is the way to go. So you're right, this doesn't increase the property tax burden. It also doesn't decrease the property tax burden.
Right, and I know the district has looked at that levy over the years, and it has raised very minimally over the past 15 years. If you look at your school taxes, there's actually, in terms of, if you look at your school taxes compared to other taxes that you pay, those have risen at a greater percentage than school taxes, and that's where we get the claim that we are being very fiscally responsible.
So many times I think, and I'll include myself in this, as a property tax payer or as a taxpayer, you just look at the amount of money you're spending in taxes and you kind of lump it all together, and you don't disaggregate where are my taxes going up. I really would challenge anybody to look at their own property tax rate since 2002, and why 2002? That was the last time that we had an opt-out that was referred. I think that was self-referred. If I remember my history correctly, I wasn't here then.
Right.
But I think 2002 is that mark, 15 years ago. So you look at what has your property tax bill done on the school side over that period of time. And I think as a newcomer to this city, I think it's remarkable how little that has gone up. I think the school district should take great pride in demonstrating that they've been good stewards of using that taxing authority very prudently over the last 15 years.
Right. Well, opt-outs, we could talk all day about it. There's more information on our website. There's information that you can find in your own tax documents and such. And so we encourage our patrons to be informed. And if they have questions, certainly let us know, or contact a school board member as well to get those questions resolved.
Without a doubt.
All right,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thanks for joining us today on Envision.